IVM.
Welcome to Police Chokwi, a special limited series on your favorite public policy podcast, All Things Policy. This series will take you behind the khaki uniform, beyond the flashing red beacon, and into the heart of the functioning of the Indian police force. We cast a critical eye on the role and function of the police in the Indian democracy, from the silent persistence of paperwork and meticulous investigation to risky counterterrorism efforts and policing in conflict zones. We explore the need for police reform and accountability in the system. Each episode brings you a comprehensive exploration of a unique facet of policing, illuminated by the insights of a former IPS officer who has lived the life behind the badge. So join us every Monday morning as we take you into the complex world of Police Chokwi.
Hello and welcome to Police Chokwi. We are back after a break, and today we're going to be talking about the world of police raids. I'm sure all of you have heard of police raids, which are essential tools for law enforcement. These are not just operations which involve a surprised element or a show of force by the police, but they also have severe consequences upon constitutional rights, public policy, as well as the evolving nature of crime in the digital age. Police raid also often become media spectacles and garner much attention. So to unpack all things about police raids today, I have Mr. Javeed Ahmad on the show with me. Mr. Javeed Ahmad is a former IPS officer and DGP of Uttar Pradesh. Welcome back to Police Chokwi, Mr. Ahmad.
Thank you, Sri. Yeah, it's been a long break, but today's topic should be of great interest to a lot of people, and I think educating people about the way police raids are conducted and the legal position around it is something that most of us should learn about and be aware of.
Right. So our focus today will be on understanding why the police conducts raids, what happens during the raids, and what happens thereafter, right? So I thought let's begin with the idea of police raids itself. Because law enforcement, of course, believes it's a very necessary tool in their among their options to fight crime. But often commentators also say that this is more often than not an intimidating show of force by the police. Of course, it's a surprise tactic and might help in discovery of incriminating material and so on. But many times we often see, raids being targeted against certain particular individuals or entities and so on. So, Mr. Ahmed, I want to know from you from a policy standpoint, right? What do you think is the real intention behind sanctioning police raids? And how does it fit into the broader law enforcement strategy? And maybe from your experience, you can also tell us, how do you balance this need for a raid with the public perception that it is actually a tool of intimidation and harassment by the police?
Yes. So let me start by saying that when we talk about police and police powers, the two essential ingredients of police powers are the power to arrest and the power to search and seize. What we call raids are essentially the operation of this second power, which I talked about, that is the power to search and seize. These powers are provided in the law under the Criminal Procedure Code. And unfortunately, you talked about the public spectacle being made around police raids in this age of 24/7 television and all that. But raids have been conducted by the police for the last so many years. And when there was no media and there was no social media and no TV, these raids were equally, frequent or necessary, and they didn't have that public spectacle element that they have now. So it is very important to disabuse ourselves from the perception that is created that police raids are public spectacles. They are meant to be an important tool for the police to be able to gather during the course of an investigation of a criminal case evidence that would otherwise not be made available. Now, that's the first point. I would also quickly say that the procedure which is provided in the law is that in the first instance, the police officer who's investigating a case can issue a summon to the individual who may have a particular information or document or weapon or whatever, to hand it over to the police. Failing which, the police then has the powers under Section 165 of the CRPC to go ahead and conduct a search of the premises where he suspects that particular, suspicious object or object which is linked to the crime, and recover it. So that is the context in which search and seizure is done. To repeat, it is a tool available to the police to seize material after conducting searches at such places where there is suspicion that objects, documents, and any other thing that links it to a crime can be found and is not being readily made available by the person who's in charge of that, that premises. So that is the starting point that I would like to highlight.
Right. So let's assume that the police has decided that a particular person, an accused or person under investigation, has decided not to cooperate with the police and hand over all the documents and devices that the police are looking for in case of an investigation. Right. So from this point onwards, I want to know the exact process which is followed within the police. So what is the decision making process like? Who sanctions a raid? And how do you ensure that how is the timing determined, what is the size, and what is the the overall the modus operandi of the police, the size of contingent and so on which goes on a raid. And also there is one more angle, right, which is that we have multiple agencies which are empowered of the search and seizure, like you pointed out. We have the income tax authorities, you have the CBI, you have the enforcement directorate, narcotics control bureau, and so on. So within raids conducted by such special agencies as well, so how do the local police fit in? And in such a scenario, who is the one who is sanctioning raids?
So once we are clear that search and seizure is an essential element in the process of the detection of a crime or the prevention of a crime, then we come to the second thing which you talked about, which is how is the raid planned, how is it, what are the logistics behind it and all that. So let us take the case of a local police station in any state of the country. As you know, the case would be registered in a particular thana, in any thana or police station. In that police station, the thana in charge, that is the station house officer, is the person who is authorized by law to conduct a search. He can do it himself, or he can authorize one of his subordinate sub-inspectors. That is the minimum level. A sub-inspector is the minimum level of officer who can carry out the raid. So he authorizes him, and he makes an entry in the records of the police that he authorizes Sub-Inspector A to go and conduct a search in the house of Mr. X, situated at such and such place, in connection with crime number whatever it may be, ABC. And for that, he deputes that sub-inspector along with the required number of police personnel. Now, in case it is felt or it is known that that person is going to resist, or that person may use force, the number of people who are accompanying the police party will increase. I mean, to give an example, if you are going to, search the premises of a suspected terror accused, obviously the apprehension can be that he may use weapons. So the preparation will be done accordingly, and maybe a SWAT team, which is very well equipped to break down doors and to return fire in case there is fire. That assessment is done on the basis of local information. In case it is known or it is thought that there are ladies residing in the premises, which is quite often, then the presence of at least one or two women police officers in the raiding party is mandated, is essential. So that has to be organized. As to the timing, the timing can obviously be any time of the day. As you said, it's always better to have an element of surprise, and it's always better to do it at a time when the person who's in charge of that premises would be available. For example, in the daytime, if you go at around 12 o'clock, chances are that the person may be out for the job or whatever, and you have to break down the door and all that. Instead of that, if you go at 6 in the morning, high probability that you get him at home. On the other hand, if you are going in a very uninhabited, unknown terrain, then you would like to do it in daylight. So there are many factors which determine or which go into deciding when a raid is going to be conducted, what kind of personnel should accompany the raiding party, what kind of preparations are needed. And one more thing which is required is that the law provides that to the extent possible, the raiding party should carry with it two independent witnesses. Now, in the case of the CBI, where the raids are done in the premises, mostly in urban areas, largely in urban areas, and where it is not so much weapons or something like that are to be recovered, but more it's documents and stuff like that. Two witnesses from different organizations of the government, for example, from banks, from post offices, from the railways, or from others, from the Central Excise Department or whatever. They are, summoned. They are then obliged to accompany the police party. In the case of the local police, the law is the same, but because the local police has so many number of raids that they have to conduct, and often local police raids will be in far-flung areas, in villages, or in other remote areas, they do not carry with them independent witnesses. For which there is a provision in the law that in case it is not possible to have independent witnesses, you can do away with it. But ideally, that is what is required.
Right. So once I want to know the process, what follows as soon as that unfortunate person hears a knock on the door, right? So during the raid, what happens? What is the procedure which the cops are bound by? What are the things they can look at? What they can't look at? And could you just take me through the process?
Yes. So let's start by saying that the raiding party can be in possession of a warrant issued by a court saying that the court authorizes the police party to raid the house of Mr. X. Or, as I said, the police has powers to conduct these search and seizure without a warrant in cases which are under investigation, which are cognizable offences. So in that case, they can go without warrant. So to believe it should be highlighted that search and seizure can be done with a warrant or without a warrant. Now, when a police party reaches the premises of the person, they knock the door or whatever, and it is expected that the law expects that the person who's the owner or in charge of that premises would afford enough opportunity to the police party to conduct the raid. Before they start the raid, ideally the police party subjects itself or gives the option to the master of the house to search the person of the police party that the police party itself is not carrying maybe some narcotics with it or some weapon with it which they will plant. That is the legal requirement, that they should make themselves available for search by the master of the house. Once that process practically doesn't happen because that person, he just says, all right, you come in. But the law provides that in case the master of the house so desires and so demands, then he should be allowed that opportunity. Now, once the raid starts, the first point is that it should always be done in a manner which does not destroy the property of the house, of the house owner. That full decorum is maintained, especially if they are women. There are women who are in parda. That means they don't want to come out in front of men, unknown or strangers. Then they are afforded the opportunity to stay in a room or whatever, so that their modesty is not affected. Once that is done, then room by room, the search party goes and conducts the search. And depending on what they are looking for, they go around rummaging through the almirah or the boxes or whatever it may be. Once that process is completed and the police have found something, then everything that they want to take away from the house, a list is made, and a panchnama or a memo is prepared, and a copy of that is made. It is signed by the police party in charge and also by the master of the house, saying that these number of things, whether it is cash or jewelry or weapons or documents or whatever it may be, it's listed out, and it's signed by both the parties, that is the master of the house and the police party in charge. A copy of that is handed over to the master of the house, and the police party leaves. Now, the police party then is expected, because you must realize that all these searches, whether with the warrant or without the warrant, have to be then reported back to the court where the matter is being tried or will be tried in due course. So the police party then goes back to their headquarters, thana or whatever it may be, and deposits all the things that they have seized in the malkhana of the thana, and sends a report of the proceedings to the court from where they have taken the warrant, or from where the matter will be tried. So that is how it should work out. The material that is seized, it may include jewelry, cash, etc., is kept at the thana till such time as the court gives an instruction that it should then be transferred to the malkhana, which is in the court.
Right.
So once that order is passed, that takes a few days often, or it may take, there are occasions when it takes 10-15 days. Then all this property, weapons, money, jewelry, drugs, whatever it is transferred to the malkhana of the court and kept in the custody of the court till such time as the court decides that it is possible and in the interest of justice that it may be returned or destroyed, as the case may be.
Right. And what about the duration of a typical raid? Because usually it begins in the morning, it might get over in a day, and sometimes it might not, right? So is there any provision regarding this, or is it just based on what the raid party believes is necessary?
Yeah, it depends on how long it takes to go through the house or the premises where the raid is being conducted. If it's a small house, raids can finish off in half an hour. Or if they are looking for something which is very clear in the mind that they're looking for a weapon. Or, for example, if they are looking for a person who's been abducted, a child has been abducted, you raid a house and you have to just see whether they can find the child there or not. So obviously it will take less time. On the other hand, if you have to look for a document, then it will take long, because there are files and documents and papers, and one piece of paper or document can be hidden anywhere. So that depends on the kind of raid that is being conducted and the purpose for which it is being conducted.
Right. So, when you mentioned that the master of the house actually has the right to search the raiding party, the police officers themselves, to ensure that no evidence is illegally planted in the premises which is being searched. So that's interesting, because that brings me to my next question. That police raids by their very nature infringe upon personal freedoms and the privacy of individuals, right? And as they often say, what is standing in the way of state encroachment of individual liberties are procedural safeguards. And which is why these procedural safeguards are so important to ensure that all aspects of the law are ticked off and raids are conducted in a law abiding manner. So, coming to the perspective of the individuals who are being raided, what according to you are some of the rights that they should be aware of? What do you think they should keep in mind in case they ever face a situation like this?
Uh, when the right of the person whose premises are being raised are that he has to be treated in a humane manner. If there are ladies and they are to be searched, or their wardrobe etc. is to be searched, then due modesty is to be shown, and especially if they are ladies, then lady officers should be present. If some incriminating thing is found and a list is made, then a copy of that list should be made available to the person. I think those are the rights that are available to the master of the house.
The other aspect.
Just let me add that basically there's a balance between the privacy of the individual in his home or in the premises or in his office, and the sovereign right of the state to conduct investigation to prevent and detect crime. That balance has to be maintained. For example, misbehaving or using unnecessarily foul language or violence, these are all not acceptable. Unless there is some reason for the police party to believe that the residents are going to use violence, they should not use violence. Violence can be used or force can be used only if it is required to prevent that person from escaping or destroying the document or evidence that the police wants to recover.
Stay tuned to All Things Policy. We'll be right back after a short commercial break.
I wanted to take this question forward into the domain of digital evidence and digital devices, say laptops and mobile phones and hard disks and so on. Because these days, most of us store a significant amount of our personal and sensitive information on these electronic devices, right? And when we have a right to privacy guaranteed by the Constitution, it extends to the information which is contained in such devices. But today, we are also witnessing where police is casually checking people on the streets and so on. And these incidents have been flagged off in media many times, where people have been asked to unlock their phones and hand it over to the police for no cost whatsoever. I think this issue of digital evidence becomes all the more crucial in the context of police raids. So, are there any protocols that police officers must follow when seizing and accessing such devices and extracting evidence from such devices? And also, how do you ensure that the data which is collected by the police from such devices is not later on misused, or digital evidence is not planted on such devices to implicate people?
Yes, we all know that the Puttuswamy case of 2017, I think it was, or 16, I think it was 17, has laid down that privacy is one of the fundamental rights. And we have to understand that when we talk about privacy in the context of digital devices, we are talking about a bundle of rights. The right to act, the privacy to access the data in the device, to erase the data, the freedom to allow or not allow the processing of that data by a third party. It also means that the data is not tampered, and that the data is not made available to a third party without the concurrence or without the consent of the owner of that device. So there are a bundle of rights that flow from the right to privacy as far as the personal electronic device is concerned. Now, you are right that presently the police and the other agencies have been seizing phones and computers and laptops in a manner that in such a manner that they feel that they can just take away that device and do whatever they want with it, including making the person forcefully make available, give the password of the device. Unfortunately, the law on this is yet to develop in our country. There are certain courts, for example, the Karnataka High Court said that making available the password is mandatory on the person, whereas the Delhi High Court said that making available the password is not required. However, it can be inferred negatively. Inference can be drawn negatively about a person who does not want to give his password. So, as far as the password is concerned, there's this gray area in the law presently. The second thing that needs to be said in this context is that because there are no standard operating procedures laid down either by the law or by the Supreme Court through its judgment, the police have been, taking a maximalist view and seizing the personal electronic devices of individuals. That includes laptops, computers, phones, etc. And then they have been keeping it with themselves, accessing the data without the individual knowing what is happening to that data. That data is given out to a third person without the concurrence or consent of the owner of that property, of that device. All these things are happening in the absence of laid down procedures and laid down SOPs, standing operating procedures. The law in this regard is still developing in our country, and the police is making the maximum use of this gray area. Hopefully, the Supreme Court is going to hear this matter very soon. I think the next 1 month or so, the matter is listed before the Supreme Court, and they will hopefully come up with some guidelines about what is to be done and what is to be done if and when a personal device is seized. Now, let me also mention here that while the seizure of a personal device, that is a computer or a laptop or a phone, is one thing, the use of the data from within that computer or laptop or a mobile phone is another thing. The jurists feel that while seizure of the mobile phone or computer may be permitted within the parameters within the law that presently exists, the police or the other investigating agency should convince the court about the need for accessing the data and whether there is a need for then passing it on to a third party for processing, because the principle they use is that of proportionality. While you are doing all these things, does the crime that the person is suspected to have done, does it warrant this kind of action? Is there a proportionality between the suspect's action and the kind of action that the police or the law enforcement agencies are taking in respect of his device, which is covered under the right to privacy? So I think these issues are still, being formulated. The law is still to be laid down, and we are at a stage when the police and other law enforcement agencies, in the absence of such guidelines, are taking a maximalist view. That is how I would like to describe the situation as it exists now.
Right. I was actually reading up this interview with Justice Shrikrishna gave to a news outlet, and where he was talking about the issues that you mentioned, especially regarding handing over the password by the person whose device has been seized by the police. Right. And I wanted to know from you, because this is a very tricky issue. I think in some jurisdictions, such as the US, the view is the police is very well within its right to hack a phone or a laptop and extract information. But the owner of the device cannot be compelled to give up their password in any case. I want to know your thoughts on it. So whenever the Supreme Court decides this issue, I want to know, because from my perspective, it's very clear that a person should not be compelled to give up this password. And if the police needs be, it can go ahead and access it in other means. I want to know from you, from a law enforcement perspective, would you agree or would you disagree on this? And the second issue which I found, which is I think you mentioned earlier, like you make a list of all the information, the documents which is being seized. Now, that is not something which is doable in the case of devices, right? I mean, it's not easy to list down all the information which is contained in a phone or a laptop, because each of this forms a part of evidence later on during the trial. So, how would you resolve that particular situation?
Okay, so to answer your first question first about there being provision for hacking, etc., in the US. Now, the legal principle which is involved is called the doctrine of fruit of the poisonous tree. In this case, the poisonous tree means the illegal, accessing of data of an individual. In the US, that is allowed as long as that information is relevant to the case. How you get it is something that the law does not look into. Whereas in India, the due process of law is important. The process established by law is important. So if certain data is collected in a manner which is illegal, is violative of the process established by law, then the courts are not going to look into it. They are not going to accept it. So, to my mind, that is the correct position, because if that were not so, then the checks and balance on the powers of the police and the accountability of the law enforcement agencies would be that much less. They would get information.
No, sorry, Mr. Ahmed. Isn't it the other way around? Because in US, as far as I know, they follow this doctrine of poisonous
Yes.
tree.
Yes.
But in truth of the poison. But I think you mentioned it the other way around. So if you want to say it again.
In the US, they say that if they get information through, for example, hacking, then that information is acceptable to law.
Is it? Because from what I know, it's not. No, because in India, they allow illegally obtained evidence. In US, they don't allow it.
I stand corrected. It is the other way around. So, to answer the question about accessing of data in a legal or illegal manner, the position in India is different from the US in that the US law says that only such information that is collected in a legal manner will be considered as far as the law and the trial is concerned, and the court is only going to look at that. Whereas in India, even if that information has been collected in a manner which is not legal, that information is also accepted and taken cognizance of by the court. Now, to my mind, this is a very dangerous jurisprudential position, because it allows the law enforcement agencies to cross boundaries without being accountable for it.
Right.
And that obviously is not a very welcome position.
Yeah, so I was asking about making copies of the documents.
Yes. So when a personal electronic device is seized, ideally all the contents of that personal electronic device, a mirror image should be made, including and hash values, taken out for each of those documents which are found in a computer or a laptop or a mobile phone, and all those details should be handed over to the owner of that property, so that just as in the case of currency notes, he knows that 5 lakh rupees have been taken from my house, and he has a list of that. Similarly, when a computer is taken and there are 25 files in it, he knows he has a copy of all the files in that, a mirror image along with the hash value, so that there is no chance or no possibility of that information being, altered or destroyed or being, interpolated to his disadvantage.
Right. And I believe, like you pointed out earlier, that, the law on this is still developing in our country, and we'll get much more clarity from a policy perspective on the process of search and seizure of digital devices, including the contentious issues of, password sharing as well as making copies of the document. But thank you so much, Mr. Ahmed, for joining me on this episode of Police Chokwi today and taking us through police raids. Thanks once again.
Yeah, let me just add one more thing, Shri, before we finish the very interesting topic. Now that the Personal Data Act has been passed, the provision has been made for the principal owner of the data, that is the individual, the fiduciary, and another class of people are those who process that data.
Yeah.
Responsibility in respect of all these three have been laid out. Once again, this is a new law which has come only a few months ago. How this plays out and how law enforcement agencies are going to use it to their advantage, or it will come in the way of encroaching upon the privacy of the individual. These are
If you
issues
liked our
that
show,
will evolve.
don't forget to check out
in
other
the
interesting
coming days and
podcasts on the
coming
IVM
months.
network.
That
You
we
can
have
tune
to
into
keep
them
a
on the
close eye
IVM
on.
Podcast app,
Right.
ivmpodcast.com,
Thanks for joining me today, Mr. Ahmed.
or wherever
Yeah,
you
thank
listen
you.
to your
Thank you.
podcasts. You can also follow IVM on social media. The handle is @IVM Podcasts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. And hey, if you'd like to dive into Takshashila's research on technology, strategy, and economic affairs, check us out at our Twitter handle @TakshashilaINST or our website takshashila.org.in.